right. All right. So the first thing from this data set, the first question was from this data set, how can we know the first names, okay? So what I'm going to do is add a few columns here, so I'll have some room. And by the way, to add columns, you can just click on the column and click and type Control+ on your keyboard to add more, right? And you can use Control- to delete columns that you have added. So it's a really handy tool to add and remove columns. So let's say I call this one first name, okay? And let me make it a little bit bigger. There we go. So now, of course, none of these has a straightforward way of doing it. So there's some degree of thinking that needs to go into it, okay? And I will try to explain. And I gave you guys some hints here. I said, try to use the left and find function. And if you remember, what the left function does is it tells you, it brings back the number of characters to the left of a cell. So if you say you wanted the first 4 characters, for example, for this name, John, then you would say left and your text and number of characters would be 4, and you can get John out of that. Now the problem is, by the way, I think I'll just put it up here. So left and that and 4, and I get John. But the problem is if I do that, it's kind of cutting some things. You can see this one is Sarah, for example, which there's an H there, and this one is Michael, right? So yes, left is working, but the problem is it's only bringing back 4, okay? That means we have to find a way to make sure that this 4 is kind of dynamic. It's giving us only the first, the first 4 characters, right? One thing we can do is to know, you can see that there is, after every first name, there's a space, okay? So what we can try to do is to find out, okay, at what position do I have a space? And if you remember, I taught you guys about the find function. So let's see where we have a space in B2, right? For that, you can use the find function, okay, on that text and say, what you want to find is a space, right? And remember, I told you if you wanted to get a space, you can just put the, double quotes and put a space in between and double quote, okay? And if you're not speaking, just go ahead and mute your mic so that it will not interrupt. And then, so within text means, within which text are we looking for the space? And we're looking for it within this one, right? And where do we want to start? We want to start from, well, the first position, so 1, right? So find space within this text and start from the first character. And you can see it's telling us that a space is on position 5. Very good. So that gives us some kind of information, which means that I will probably need to see only the first number of characters before the space, right? Meaning, if I wanted to see John only here, I can do left this find, okay, and -1, meaning I'm getting only the first 4 characters. And if I remember, I told you can either copy and paste formulas in the other cells like that, okay? So you see, or you can just highlight all of them and press Control D on your keyboard. So you see, it's telling me that Michael, for example, will be after the first 7 characters, which is really good information, okay? And remember what I did with the left function. I'll just type left here again, okay? What I did was I said left of this, remember, and I manually put 4 there because I know that it's 4 characters, right? And then I got John. Now, this manual thing, I want to stop it. So instead, I will put this 4, which is actually a formula here, and replace the 4 there, Okay, so I'll come here, remove 4, put that manual function, and I get the same thing. I get John. But the good thing is now when I copy my formula down, look at that. It's giving me exactly the first name from every of the cells, meaning that this part is now dynamic. So every time it's telling me, after how many characters do you have a space? In this case, it's 8. And then you see I did a -1 here. So I've just said 8 minus 1, which is 7. So I've said left function, give me the first 7 characters that you can see on this cell. And it says, okay, the first 7 characters is Michael. Okay. And that's how you do the first name. Any questions?
Sir, could you please repeat?
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah.
Of course, of course.
Thank you.
Do you remember what the left function does? So left function gives us the characters on a cell based on the number of characters we selected. Okay. So I'm doing left of B2, which is left of John Smith, but I'm only returning the 4 letters, so to speak, 4 characters from it. And I will get John. The problem with that is if I copy down, it's not every first name here is 4 characters. Some first names are longer than 4 characters, like Sarah and Michael. Okay. Now, the thing we have to do is to make sure that we don't type 4 here. That means we don't fix 4. 4 has to be dynamic. So when you want something to happen, dynamically, you want it to calculate the number of characters before the space every time. Okay. So if I had one cell here, for example, number of characters before space, just to see, I want to know how many characters before the space because I can know where the space is and therefore know where how many characters my first name contains, right? So how many characters are there before the space? I will need to use find. Remember, find returns the number of characters for whatever you are finding, okay? So the exact location where what you're looking for is. So in this case, I'm looking for a space, right? So it's going to tell me that the space is on 5. So you see JOHN and then a space. But for Michael, it's going to tell me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then a space. That means it's going to return 8 here, right? If I did that, I can say find what I'm looking for. So you see find text. In this case, I'm looking for a space. Within which text? This one. Where do I want to start? So start now means you should start searching from the first character or from the second character, as the case may be. In this case, I want to start from the first character. So that first character is 1. And then when I close that bracket, it's going to tell me that the space is on 5. And if I repeated the formula on all of them, you see it tells me for Michael that the space is on 8. Okay? Now, I know what left does. I know how to know where the space is. And what I want basically is the text before the space, meaning this left function, I have to modify it to make it, instead of having 4 as a dynamic number here, as a manual number here, a static number, I want it to be dynamic. So I want it every time to do this left function, which I did here, and return the number of characters to the left, the exact character to the left according to the number of characters that I've selected. So in this case, will be 5 here, right? So in fact, if I had just removed 4 from here and just referenced this one here like this, okay? So I'm saying, tell me how many characters based on H2, and H2 is 5, right? Now it tells me John. If I did that like that, I see all of them. But the thing is, it's also giving me the space. You won't see the space, but and that's why I did -1 here, because -1 removes the extra space. Okay, because in fact, John is only 4 letters. And if you look at all of it, you see it's just the number of letters of the name. Okay, so if I wanted to add your name there, for example, I think the question was from Glory. Glory, what's your other name? Adele. And I did that. You can see it just tells me that it's Glory here. Okay. All right. So that was how to do the first name. I know it's a little bit complex, but of course, when you watch the video again, I'm pretty sure you'll figure it out. Okay. Like I said, I know this was not a very simple exercise. You had to think about it a little bit to answer the question. I'll do one more of these text functions, and then I'll jump to the date functions. Okay. But of course, if you have questions, feel free to, raise it, ask me later after today's session. I'll be more than happy to help you. Otherwise, you can also ask other participants, and you guys can just work on it together to figure it out. So let's do this one. This second one is kind of even more tricky than the first name. Okay. I will remove what I've typed here. Beat. And let's see how to find our last name. Now, it says, the hint here says use right, find, and len. So right pretty much does the opposite of left, right? Right instead takes from this side, okay? It returns the number of characters from the right side, while left returns the number of characters from the left side. Basically, that's what it does. So let's try manually first, the manual approach we know that this John Smith, so Smith obviously is the last name, and Smith contains 5 letters, okay? So in this case, we will say right of this text, and we're returning the 5 characters. And you see Smith, which is good. The problem is, if I copy that down, it's not exactly working well, because this one has 7 characters on it, okay? And so on and so forth. So the names are not the same, so we have to make it somehow dynamic. But now this one is a little bit tricky because, yes, if we know where the space is, for example, there's a space here. There's 5 characters here, but it's not the same. The space in this one is in a different location because there's 8 characters here, and then there's a space. And by the way, when you're coming from the left side, it's not so easy. So what we need to do is, first we need to know let's know where the space is, okay? So find the space. Let's know where it is. So of course, as before, find, what are we finding? A space. Where are we finding it? Looking at here. And we want to start from 1. So 5, right? Just as before. Okay. I'll just delete that one there. So now we have the location of the space. The other thing is we need to know is how long is this full name, okay? Because for us to be able to move from the right, it means that we have to know the length of the full name, and we have to subtract the number of characters of the first name in order to know, to get the location of the space, in order to know how many characters from the right we have to display, okay? And for that, we have to use the len function. So so I'll say here, total name length. Let's get the total name length. This one will just be len, right? Remember, len just returns a number of characters in a specified cell. Okay, so now we know all of that. So this kind of brings us pretty close to what we're trying to do, because now we know how long the how long the text, the name is, and we know where the space is located. That means if we are coming from 10, which will be the end here, we should stop at about 5, right? Does that make sense? So I will say here, where is the space?
I do have a question.
Yes.
Okay, for the find the space,
Yes.
right? Can you explain the formula? Because I don't understand why you put the last true one.
The last true one. This one here?
Yeah.
This one just means where are you starting to find from? So, and I want to start from, so J is the first letter. So I want to start from the beginning, in fact. Because now look at something. If I started, let's look only here, right? Keep your eyes on this one. It's telling me that the space is on 5. If I started from 2, which will be, I'm starting to count from O, right? Yes. Hold on. Find space. Start norm 1. Start norm, let's say 3. Then it's not right. Hold on. This, let's say, let's say we want to look for O in this case. So it's telling me that O is in 2, but if I went to say 3, it gives me an error. Because actually it gives me an error because O is in the second position, right? So if it starts to count from 3, then there is no O anymore in the thing. So it says, well, I don't know where an O is. Looks like with space, it anyway gives you the position, but that's a bit weird because, yeah, no, it's correct because it starts to count from the left, right? And anyway, it gives you here. But if I started to search from S, for example, and I went right, then I'll get an error even with the space. So let's say 5 from position 5, which will be S. Yeah, sorry, 5 is the space. Let's say 6. Then I get an error, right? Does that make sense? So it's starting to count from the left towards the right. And it tells you if I'm looking at everything from here, I'm seeing the space on position 5. But if I was looking at everything from here, for example, well, I'm still seeing it in position 5 because it exists, right? But if I started looking from here like this, I cannot see any space anymore, and therefore I give you an error. Okay?
Okay, so basically the number is the first letter.
That it will search from.
That's if it was 1.
It starts searching from J.
Yeah.
But if it was H, if it was 3, then it starts searching from H.
From H, okay.
Yeah, exactly. But if it was 6, as you saw, it starts from S.
S.
And when it searches, it doesn't see any space, and therefore it gives you an error.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So now we are looking for where the space is. So where is the space? In this case, the space will be the number of characters minus where you find the space, right? When you are looking from the right, remember this one was when you're looking from the left. Find the space is when you're looking from the left. So the space is on the 5th character from the left. But if you're looking from the right, then obviously you need to subtract the total number of characters from the number of characters from the left. So it still says 5, but On this one, it says it's 5, right? Because if you started counting from here, then you have 5 letters of the last name before you hit the space, okay? So that's really good information for our write function, because our write function just wants to know how many characters from the right. So if we want to use our write function now, which obviously is our last name, we will go write of this text, and how many characters do you want to return? It'll be this from here, which means we are looking at the number of characters from the right, and we see Smith, which is our last name, in fact. I will just put at the bottom here last. Yeah. And if I did that, then you see we have a dynamic last name. Unlike what we did before, which was chopping it off. Now, because we know how many characters from the right side before we hit the space, then our last name is now correct. Any other question? No questions? Okay. So I can assume that you all understand.
No, I've been talking.
Okay, sorry. Looks like you were muted.
Yeah, I said, what if I don't want to go through this whole process because it's a very long process right now, and I want to just look for the last name, combining these functions together?
Yes.
How do I go about it?
Very good question. So in fact, I had broken it down like this into different columns because I wanted to explain to you the different pieces of the formula, okay? In fact, in real life, if you had this problem, you wouldn't have to, insert all of this. You would pretty much just, of course, use the write function, but now the write function is referring to I2, which is your, where is the right located, right? Which is actually H2 minus G2. Now what's H2? H2 is this len function. So let's replace this 5 with these values so that we can remove these values, right? So let's see. So instead of doing this, I will say, what was the formula on H2? It was this one, right? So I'll just copy it and replace H2 here. And I still have 5, okay? And now I want to remove the G2, and G2 is this find function, okay? So I will copy it and I will replace G2 here. I still have 5, which is good. So it means I don't need these 2 anymore, because if I replaced all of them, I still have exactly, so I have just copied and pasted the formula. I still have exactly the same numbers, which means I don't need these anymore. So I delete them. Now I need to get rid of the G function, the values in G, and that is these values here, G2, okay? So I'll just have to copy everything from here, copy, and I'll replace the G2 here. And I still have my Smith, which is good. So now if I just copied that and pasted on all of them, I still have my last names, so I don't need G anymore. Okay, and I, in fact, don't need this one anymore. And now you have one function, one formula that kind of combines all of those individual columns that we have created before. And this is how you do it in the real world. I had inserted those columns just to explain the different pieces of the formula.
Yeah. I don't want the copy and paste. I wanted to just do it from the scratch, actually.
Well, it's quite simple. First, like I said, write gives you what you need, all the characters from the right side. But write takes in 2 parameters. So if we did write of this, and I took, say, 5 characters there, so 5. Now I have that. But the thing is, I don't want to hard code 5 here. But how can I know what 5 is? Or how can I know how many letters? Because here it won't be 5, here it will be 7, right? So what you need to do is to know how many characters is in the full name, which will be len of the full name, and then you will have to find the space, okay? So in that case, you will have to say, well, len of the full name, which is len of this, right? Minus, no, I needed to know first, just a second, find of my space will give me 5. So len minus find of my space, exactly. So len of the full name, like this, minus find of my space within this character, and we are starting from 1. And of course, it's asking me that I need to close all my brackets. See, I missed one bracket here. So I say yes, and I get Smith, and I get all my names. So it's exactly the same thing I just did, but you have to know what each piece, each part of the formula does, and then just pretty much combine all of them to give you your result. Okay. All right. And because of time, I'll just do only one example from the date functions. I put this one in red text here because you may not see this, because I gave you a hint here, date if. You may not see date if as a, an easy function in your, I'm just going to delete this and use Control+ to add some more. You may not see this date if function in your Excel, depending on the version of Excel you are using, right? But the way the data, but I just copied how it works here just for you, okay? So date if, so basically what it does is date diff, it gives you the date difference between the start date, the end date, and the unit that you want to use to return it, okay? So in this case, the question is, how many years of service has this person put in? Then it says, calculate how many years the employee has been within the company. And here we have the date the employee was hired, okay? So we're going to be working with these dates right here, okay? So, but I also mentioned here that you need to use the today function, okay? So if I use the same approach that I used before, just reduce that. I say, okay, what is today? Today is, types format there, I'll just do that. Today is today, of course. And I said, I think last week I was showing you this, today function doesn't take any arguments. So the brackets are just empty, basically. And then Excel just tells you, well, today is the 24th of May, okay? So now, using the date diff function, we can tell the difference between that date, this date, and today, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'll just to save time, I'll copy this one because I'm not going to get any intelligence. And I will say, okay, my start date, so I'll delete this one. And I use my hiring date, obviously. I need to put the equal here. My hiring date, and then I put a semicolon. And then the end date will be today, right? And the unit, in our case, because the question was asking for how many full years, so our unit will be Y. And by the way, yeah, because I'm using a semicolon in my function. So it's telling me that there's 5 years since this person has started, okay? And if I just copy it down like that, you can see some people have been 7 years and 4 years. So again, let me repeat, Dative works with, and you see what I'm telling you, that because depending on the version of Excel you are using, you may not have, you will not see some kind of description of what the function does. Or even when you went in here, you won't see any descriptions. It's because dative is a function that is, I think, it's introduced in the new versions of Excel, and it's not fully it's not fully embedded within Excel yet. So you can use it, but the descriptions and how it works and all of that will not appear for you. Okay. So that's how it works. Basically, you reference the date that the person has been hired. You reference today. And before I get another question, I'm just going to remove this F2 here and just change that to today, right? So you can just directly just mention today inside of your formula. And then you will not need this one anymore, right? It's giving me the error because I deleted it. And I will just do that. And I still have the same result. Okay. Questions? Looks like some people have messages in the chat. Just a second. Okay, it's old comment. All right. So no questions for date. If date if. And so this E date and EO end of month. So this one just returns. It says here, add 1 year to the higher date. So E date gives you the date or the year of the date, right? So E date, it says here, return 0 number that indicates number of months before and after the start date. So if we said E date of this date, okay, and I wanted to know how many months within this date, if I say 0, for example, then it just tells me, I will change this to a date, sorry, date. So it just tells me that we are, of course, in the current date. But if I added 1 here, then it just adds 1 month to the current date that I've selected, right? And if I wanted to see 1 year, then it's obviously 12 months. And it takes me to 2021 here, okay? So it just returns the number of months within the dates that you have selected, okay? So it says add 1 year to the higher date. And in this case, 1 year is 12 months, and I've just done that. And you can see all of the dates have just increased by 1 year. And the last one I'll do is the end of month, or no, maybe this. Any questions on the E date or AOM end of month? I'll leave this one. Try to figure it out yourself because of time. Any questions on E date? All right. Let me do this text function last because it's actually quite interesting. And by the way, if I remember in the last lesson, somebody asked the question, how can we get the exact day instead of the date, the number of days from the date selection? If I remember, that was a question last time. And there, I in fact didn't show you that because it was a different function. There you need a text function here, okay? Text function just pretty much says that date that you want to display, how do you want to display it, okay? And we want to display like this one down here, okay? So first will be the day, okay? And I will say, if I just wanted to display only Monday, for example, I could just do D, okay? Let's say that's all I wanted for now. And then it just tells me, sorry, this one is Sunday, okay? And if you remember well, when I was showing you the format cell functionality last time, when you went to custom, I was showing you how you can play with these custom formats here. And I remember I had this problem with my keyboard because I'm using a Danish keyboard, but for the rest of you, this would be Y, right? So basically, if I just change that to DDDD, you can see it gives me a sample to say what will come back is Sunday. So essentially what we're doing with the text function is exactly the same thing we did when we went into format cells under custom. We get exactly the same result. In fact, Excel is behind the scenes applying the text function to that cell. So that helps us really because now we can just say DDDD, which will be our, expand this a bit, DDDD. So that's our day. And then next will be month. So I need M, I think. And then for 15, I'll just need only 2 Ds and another comma. And for the year, I'll need, now again, on my keyboard, I have to use this funny looking character, but on yours, it will be Y, okay? So this normally should give me exactly this, and I think there's a dot at the end, okay? So it kind of just represents the same date format, but in a more human readable format because we have used the text helper function.
Let me ask, the 2 Ds in the function, does it represent the 15?
Yes.
Okay, I can see that the 4 Ds also. Okay.
Yes, because in fact, all you need to do is to play with it. And let's go to these format cells and play with it a little bit, okay? Now, if I, under here, if I put 1 D, I get 15. 2 Ds, I still get 15. But 3 Ds gives me SUN. It doesn't give me the whole Sunday. It just gives me SUN. If I add another D, then it gives me the full name Sunday. But that's about it. That's the limit you can go with day. And then from this same date, if I wanted to see M, so 1 M tells me it's 3. 2 M's tells me 03. That's when you wanted to have a date. If I wanted to have the date looking like this one, for example, then it will be 2 M's, right? I go back there and I say MM, and I have 03. And if I added another M, then it's MAR, M-A-R. If I add another M, then it's full March. And that's about the limit. It doesn't get better than that, okay? So 4 M's gives you March, and so on. And year, for year, the same thing. 1 of this, which will be Y in your keyboard, gives you the year with only two characters. And as you add more, it's just gonna increase, but it doesn't go beyond 3 characters. So in fact, my example here could have also worked if it was only 3 of that, and it's still correct. Okay. So this was how to solve the problem. So for the other ones, they're quite tricky. I think it's a really good assignment you had. After the class, let's look at it again. And if you have any questions, let me know, and I'll try to help you figure it out. All right, so let's jump back to our course because we have spent more than 40 minutes just on the homework. But it's good because I'm pretty sure you have learned something. Let's look at lookups. And well, lookup basically, we want to be able to search through our data to find something within the data. Excuse me. If I went to my exercises, I have made something to help us, lookup functions, this one. Great. I made a small data set here. and I want to be able to, there are several kinds of lookup functions. There's VLOOKUP, there's HLOOKUP, and there's XLOOKUP. And by the way, VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP mostly are not used nowadays. They are old lookup functions. XLOOKUP pretty much replaces both of them, and XLOOKUP is a lot easier to use. But what am I talking about? Say, for example, now this is a pretty small data set. Matter of fact, I think I have a bigger one here. Let me use this one. I'll just copy this. Copy. And lookup functions, I'll paste here. Good. So I have a lot of data here, 56 rows. It could be your, I don't know, your products in your shop, or it could be your shipments, it could be whatever. It could be your work orders for those of you in maintenance. It could be anything. And you want to be able to return some other field only based on what you're looking for. So for example, if I wanted to see Alice, the department that Alice worked. Now, I think, yeah, because this one is actually an employee time registration data. I think I'll stick with this for now. Sorry, I had to do Control Z because that data will give me, it's not going to give me what I want. Well, just imagine that this data could have been thousands and thousands of rows, okay? But let's work with just these 5 rows for now. Let's say I wanted to know, I wasn't, I had a big list and Alice was, I don't know, maybe the 10,000th row. And it would have been very difficult for me to go through the entire list just to look for the department that Alice works for. And this is where lookups help us, right? So if I wanted to know, I put this small table here. If I wanted to know the department for Alice, then I could use a function called VLOOKUP. And you can see that it tries to explain to me what I can put into this function. And the first thing it's asking is, what is my lookup value? What am I looking for? And in this case, I'm looking for Alice. So I'll just click this one, right? So I'm looking for Alice. And it's asking for the table array. Table array is, where are you looking for Alice? So I know that Alice is somewhere in this table, okay? Imagine we couldn't see Alice here, but it was somewhere in this table. So you will highlight the entire table and you see it has highlighted A7 to E11 for me. And then it says, which column do you want to return? So you're looking for department, and department in this case is in column 3, right? So I'll select 3, okay? And it's asking me, do you want an approximate match or an exact match? In my case, I want an exact match, so I will type false here, okay? And close my bracket. And I get an error. Sorry, Alice is on column 2. Sorry. Yes, I will. Yes. There is yeah, like this it works. The reason is, and I wanted to bring column 2. Sorry, I messed it up a bit. That's because VLOOKUP only works with the leftmost column, right? So the thing you are looking for has to be the leftmost one in the data set that you're searching. So if I wanted to look for name, then I had to select like this, only the yellow part and not including here, because the lookup column has to be the leftmost column like this, right? So if I come back to my formula, you'll see I am looking for H18, which is Alice, and I'm looking for within B7 to E11, which is only this range, for which the name is the leftmost one, right? Yes. And then I'm going to say, from that leftmost one, how many columns to the right does the data I'm looking for, is the data located? And in this case, it's on the second column, which is 2. And false just tells me that I want to return an exact match and not an approximate match. And I get HR. That means Alice is working in HR. And if I copy down, you can see that Diana is working in marketing, and that's true. And you can see that Charlie is working in finance, and that's true. I'll go over it one more time. VLOOKUP works with, it's used to look for a certain value within a set of values, but you have to come from the leftmost value towards the right. Okay, so in this case, I will say VLOOKUP, what value am I looking for? Alice. On which table array am I looking for Alice? This one. Remember, the lookup value has to be on the leftmost selection of your data. And what column contains the data you want to return? I'll use salary in this case. So I'll set, so this will be 1, 2, 3, right? So I'll say, okay, it's on the third column. And I want an exact match. So I'll say false. And I get 48,000 because Alice indeed earns 48,000. And that's how you do it with VLOOKUP.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
If the name were to be in the C column, where you have department, and I want to look up for Alice. So if I take from column B to the start date, it will give me a wrong, it will not give me any value. I have to take from column C. Is that what you mean?
Yes, yes. That
Okay.
the value you are searching for must be in the leftmost column of the data that you are searching it. So in this case, say for example, I was looking for ID. If I just did the same thing, so I had ID, employee ID, I'll just copy this one here. If I was looking for employee ID and I wanted to know the department, okay, I'll just copy this one. So if I wanted to know the department that employee ID 1005 works for. Now, you see, and this is a real example, is you just have the ID. You don't know who the person is. You don't know the department. You don't know what the salary is or what the start date is. You just want to look for that personnel within the list of employees, and you want to return the department of the personnel. You can use VLOOKUP of this ID. Now, in this case, because our ID is the leftmost column, I can select all the data, right? Because ID is on the leftmost column. And my column index will be, I want to know the department, so it will be 1, 2, 3, right? So 3, and I want an exact match, so I type false. And I see that 1005 is working in IT, and that's true.
One more question, please. If you have this value and the way it's arranged, I want to look for Alex. No, I have Alex. I want to look for her employee ID. Will VLOOKUP work with that? And
no, with the way the data is structured, it will not work because you cannot look in the reverse direction, which is a disadvantage of VLOOKUP. It means what we used to do back in the days. If I had to look for the employee ID, I would have to add an additional column and copy this to here. That's what I used to do many years ago, and paste it there. In order to do that, you have just asked, right? So in that case, let me just delete these ones. In that case, if I wanted to know the employee ID of Alice, then I would say VLOOKUP, VLOOKUP of Alice within, I'll just select only these two because I'm just looking for the ID, right? And I would say it's on 2. right? And I'll say I want an exact match, and I get 1001. So it works, but the problem is you have to move your search column to be the leftmost column of your data, which is actually a problem. And that's the disadvantage actually of VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP, because you had to move your data all the time if you wanted something that was accurate. Okay. And HLOOKUP, does that clarify it, Florence?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. And HLOOKUP pretty much does something similar, but it looks in this case in the horizontal direction, right? So if I wanted to know, for example, let's say let's say I wanted to know which department was, let's see, let me think. I hardly use HLOOKUP because it's not really very practical. So lookup value, let's say we are looking for, you know what? I don't have any example for HLOOKUP right now. Let's keep HLOOKUP. I'll think of something and I'll come back to it later. This data is not structured for HLOOKUP. Let's look at XLOOKUP, which essentially just solves the problem of moving stuff from one column to the next, right? Because XLOOKUP can do that question you asked me, Florence, by going left and right. With XLOOKUP, you can do, if I wanted, go back again to department, I wanted to get the department and I did, so XLOOKUP off. Again, we're looking for that value. Now, XLOOKUP asks you on which array. In this case, we are looking only at where we are looking for the data, right? And it's here. And what do you want to return? I want to return the department. And then it's even better because it asks me, okay, if it is not found, what do you want to display? Let's say I want to display not found. And it's asking me, do you want an exact match, just like we had with VLOOKUP? And I say 0. So 0 is for exact match, 0. And it's asking search first to last, last to first. It depends how, either you're going to search from the top or from the bottom. And in this case, I want to search top to bottom. So I do first to last, okay? And it tells me it's HR. And it gives me all of them like that, right? Now, why I said it's actually way simpler, and I know it seems like you have more things that you have to fill in, but you can, as you can see, I've only just highlighted what I'm looking for and where I'm looking for it. But with VLOOKUP, you would have to highlight all of the cells, and you have to know on which column the data is located, and you have to put the number. And the other advantage of VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP is that you cannot go in the opposite direction. Any questions on that?
Please, can you just repeat the XLOOKUP one more time?
Okay, sure.
Thanks.
Yes, of course. I'll delete that again. So XLOOKUP, what are you looking for? Alice. Where are you looking for Alex? Here. What do you want to bring back? Salary. In fact, with XLOOKUP, you can stop here. You can just close that and hit enter and it gives you. So XLOOKUP is really, really easy to use, right? But the other things that was in that function was if you wanted to, you know, say, okay, if I don't find it, what should I display? So something like not found, for example. And do you want an exact match? Yes, I want. And then where do you want to, how do you want to do it, from top to bottom or from bottom to top? Because it's possible that you can have this one appearing twice in the data. and you want to be able to either search from top to bottom or bottom to top. But in this case, I want to go from first to last. So I'm going from the top to the bottom, and I press enter and I get my value. Now, just to test that value, that if not found, this one I put here. Say I put my name here. So I'm not in this data set, and it's telling me not found, which is actually a neater way to display the data instead of giving an error. If I had not done that, say I'll just delete that part, and I did that, it gives me an error. This is an error. It's an any error, not available, not found, right? But to solve that, I could use that, not found functionality here and say, well, I want an exact match. And in fact, even these ones, you don't need to, like, the values are optional. You don't need to update all the requirements of the function. They're nice to have, but it's not mandatory. Like that. Okay. Any questions again? Very good. I'm just thinking of an example for HLOOKUP. Let's say let's do it down here. Let's say I want to know the salary of, say, Bob here. Okay, yeah, it's not, like I said, the data set is not really set up for that, but what am I looking for? I'm looking for salary, right? Now, in this case, I'm going to be looking for an exact column. In this case, it's called salary, right? So I'll do that, and then I'll say, on which table am I looking for it within the entire table, right? And on which column does the data I'm looking for exist? And it's in column 3, right? Is it 3 or 4? 4. And do I want an exact, just like we did with VLOOKUP? I'll say false. And I get 52,000, right? So yeah, it's not, yeah, which is correct, because Bob's salary is 52,000. But what it's doing is it's actually looking horizontally instead of vertical. That's just the difference between VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP, because HLOOKUP looks horizontally, right? That's why we had to say, on this data set, on column 3, which row, what value is on column 3 if you looked at the column from a horizontal perspective. It's a bit complex to explain, but I hope that makes some sense. Another example would be, for example, if I say what department is employee with ID 1005, right? If I wanted to use HLOOKUP to do that, I would say here, I can either just do that or just type department, right? So department within this table, and on which column does the data I'm looking for exist? In this case, it's 1, 2, 3, right? So 3, and I want an exact match. And I see it's IT. Okay. So, yeah. It's not very practical, but the idea is that you can use it to look up things. Both VLOOKUP, XLOOKUP, but the best lookup function is XLOOKUP. Because you don't need to do both of them anymore, in fact. Question? Okay. Let's look at, I have a few more things in functions before we take, let's just spend another, say, 10 minutes and then we'll take a break. Let's look at error handling. Remember just now I had an error in my data. Let's go back to the content. Did I keep any sheet for error? Let's make one. I'll just call it error handling. Let's say 100 divided by 0, for example. You get an error like this, okay? So it's saying this value does not exist. If I've done by 2, for example, I get that, but by 0 gives me an error. Or you saw the error just now with the conditional format where, with the VLOOKUP, where if it doesn't exist, it gives you not found. But if I have not set not found here, then you see an NA error here, okay? Now, what I did here was actually handling the error by putting this not found. So it's a way we handle the error to say, okay, when an error happens, what should you do? And Excel has some built-in functions that can help us actually. This one, for example, if error. Let's see how it works. So if I go back to my error handling page, now I'm saying I have that division calculation there, which is wrong. But I can put something like if error. That means if an error occurs with this division, do something, right? And here it says value if error. So I can say, instead of showing that, I can say something like error occurred. Like this. This is a lot neater. Oops, sorry. Oh, yeah, there we go. Error occurred. So it's saying 100 divided by 0 is an error. So it's saying that is an error and therefore error occurred displayed. And just to give you a practical example, I'll go back to that table where we did lookups. Let's say I wanted to, I think I'll just make a new one. Let's say name, let's say salary. Let's say Florence has a salary of 1,000. Who else is there? Glory has a salary of 2,000. And Jane 1,500. Okay. So we and I'll just put Joe here, and I've actually kind of made a mistake. Let's say this was yearly salary, for example. Yearly salary, okay? And we want to use Excel to calculate the monthly salary. In that case, I would just say that salary divided by 12, right? So it means, and you can actually remove the zeros by clicking that, okay? So let's say 83 and so on. And if I say, I made a mistake when I was entering Joe and I put some text here. I maybe mistakenly put his name there. So what Excel is trying to do is it's trying to divide Joe by 12, which is not possible because Joe is not a number, right? for us to be able to ensure that we don't have any errors, because we may have some kind of aggregation formula here. Remember, I showed you how to use sum, and we wanted to sum all the, salaries, the monthly and the yearly salary of our employees. Okay, and I also put sum here. But now you see the problem is I'm getting an error. Here it works, but here it's not working because I have an error in the value here. Okay. The way to ensure that we can see the error and eliminate it before we get a wrong summation down here is by using something like that IFERROR function here, right? So I can say if error of that division. So if that division here is an error, say check data. Okay. Of course, it still gives me something, but it's asking you to check your data that something is not right here. Okay. And then you can come back and say, oh shit, I forgot. I made a mistake here. And I can say Joe is a very rich guy, so 3,000. And now my data is correct. Okay. So the idea of error handling is for you to be able to see if an error has occurred in your data and fix it, so that you will not be sending wrong data to in your reports. I will just before I continue, combine it with this ISERROR. So ISERROR essentially is just checking if what you have calculated is an error. Well, you will probably never use ISERROR. I never do, but just for learning purpose, ISERROR just says is it an error, right? Is 100 divided by 0 an error? And it's just going to tell me if it's true or false, right? And in this case, it's telling me, yes, it's true. This thing here is an error. And if the number was okay, for example, I had 2 there, then it says false, it's not an error, okay? So you can, when you're processing your data, you can put such kind of functionality, and maybe you can put some kind of conditional format that if you had your big data like this and you had an error in it, then give me a bad color, for example, right? Let's do that with this this thing again. I come back here again and I type Joe here, okay, and I remove my if error and I change this to if error. So well, I'll use here check error. Let's say I say is this value an error? That says false, it's not an error. False, false, false. But if I didn't put the error check in here, I'll remove that. So it gives me a true there. I'll just remove the sum for now. It gives me a true there. And I can bring my conditional format and say, I can add a new rule and say it contains equal to, let's say it's equal to false, and make it be a red field, red like this. Okay. Bye. Sorry, it's the opposite. This is true. Yeah. So only the errors will be red. Good. Okay. So if you were managing a big amount of data, then you could look for all the places where error shows true, because you have put some conditional format. So it's quite easy for you to see where the errors are. And you can come back and fix your error and say, I bring back the 3,000. And now it's not an error anymore, and it's clean. Okay. It's kind of a way just to help you visually find where errors are within your data and fix them. Any questions on that?
What's the difference between IFERROR and ISERROR?
So if error gives you an alternative, there's an error, but ISERROR doesn't. So if error, you can see it's asking you for a value, let's say this value. And here the alternative is what will be displayed if there is an error. And you can say, I don't know, you can put a text there to say error, meaning you're kind of trying to help your data to say, don't display the error, but display, well, this character error. And it shows the number, but if this was Joe again, then it displays error instead. But you can see this one is displaying value, meaning this is an error. But you don't want to, you know, when you send your reports, you don't want to have this kind of thing showing in your reports. But this one actually looks a bit cleaner. So if error helps you to have some kind of alternative text to display, but ISERROR just tells you true or false if that thing is an error. And that's all it does. I cannot have an alternative for that one. So ISERROR of this will just give me true, basically. And that's all I can do. I can only just work with true or false. But one way I can visually see where the errors are is to add conditional formatting. Okay. And if NA, which was the last one, it's just telling me if NA. So if I had, let's use this lookup again. Let's, you see, if, for example, in my own case, I'll remove this not found function that I had here. So you see, I'm having an NA error here, right? NA, there are different types of errors, right? So NA means, well, it's not found. I can actually clean that up by putting something here and say, if NA, before I do my XLOOKUP. So if NA before XLOOKUP, tell me not found. Not found. And of course, it will say not found. It's just a way to clean up your data, basically. But it did, you see, it did the same thing that XLOOKUP already can do, because XLOOKUP already within it, we had the if not found function inside of XLOOKUP already, right? But then again, that's because XLOOKUP has it. But in the back in the days when people used to do VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP, you could use if NA to actually return a very clean data like not found in your formulas. Okay, good. I propose we take a small break. Any questions on this one before we take a break? 5 minutes. Any questions? I'm going to ask you questions later. So if you have any questions, ask me. Okay, no questions. So let's take a 5-minute break. Let's come back at 7 at in Nigeria now it's 4:22, right? So let's come back at 4:30. Let's make it 8 minutes. So which is 5:30 in Denmark, and whatever time you are, it's 8 minutes from now. Okay? Can you all hear me?
Yeah, not yet, sir.
All right. So see you in a few minutes. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Noted.
Okay. So next one is nested functions. Well, it's here in my slides, but we already did this one a couple of times already. If I can remember, we did the pass fail and all that a few sessions ago. I think it was under conditional formatting. And here you can see the nested functions that we did. So I will not go over it again just to save time. So go back, look at this one. If you don't understand, come back, ask questions, and we will try to support you. Okay. So I'm going to skip that one for now, please. And of course, you can see the IFERROR VLOOKUP. We did IFERROR XLOOKUP just now. I think I did IFNA and XLOOKUP, and I said not found. So that's pretty much similar to what you have here. Named ranges. So you can actually name, so a range. Who can tell me what a range is? You can open your mic and tell me what a range is.
The group of cells.
Okay, a range is a group. It's a cell or a group of cells. So one cell actually can be a range, and a group of cells can also be a range. Very good. So, do I have a name? Yeah, there we go. Named range. So, let's say, just delete that for now. Let's say I want to be able to, so where's this one? Remember, if I wanted to do a sum of all of these, I could either just, do it like this or add them one by one. So I prefer to use the sum function, right? So I sum that and I get that, okay? But then again, this could be a very big list, and it could be, quite difficult for me to reach all of the values within the list. That's where naming some ranges comes to help, right? So I can decide to say, okay, I'll delete this one for now. Let me name all the product A values with a certain name, and product B values with a certain name, and product C values with a certain name. To do that, I can come here, and there is this data field, formula field, where you have something called a name manager, or you can, under the define name section, you can actually define a name for what we have just selected. And you can see Excel is already suggesting for us product A, okay? And scope just says, where do you want to be able to access this name that you're going to create? And let's just leave the defaults, okay? And you can see here, it's already kind of highlighting for us the name, the range that we would like to give this name. And you can see here that there's this, moving lines around the section. So it means that this group of values will have this name called product A. So I say, okay, yes, but now what? Now, where is product A? That's where you need the name manager. So if I went into the name manager, then you can see I even have a few other names within this workbook. And this is the one that we have just created. And you can see the reference of product A is all of these values. So name ranges is the name of my sheet, and it's telling me that the range is between B5 and B8, which is true. So B5, B8, and I can actually either delete the name or edit it, or even create new names. Let's create another name for product B. If I do it from here, you see it brings us to a similar screen as we saw earlier on. And in this case, I would just say product underscore B, and I will delete this reference and refer it to this range. And you see Excel has helped me to say, okay, it's between C5 and C8 that will be called product C. And I can click OK, and I have product B. I have product B, and I can also create product C as a name and refer to that range as product C and say, okay. So you can see here now I have 3 named ranges. Now, what can I do with that? A lot of things. I can decide to say, okay, I want to add, I can say here, sum of prices. Okay. Sum of prices of products in January and February and so on. One way to do that could have been to say equal sum and do that. No, sorry. I don't need that there because I need it down here. Sum of prices. Yeah, down here. So I can do sum like that. And I have it. Or I can just, you see what Excel has done for me? It has in fact replaced automatically my selection with product A, right? And yeah, just like that. And if I copied my formula to the right, well, I just need to change this one to B. And I have the sum of product B, and change this one to C, and I have the sum of product C. So you see how fast and easy that was. And if I want to sum all of the products, I can maybe here, so sum all products. I can just, instead of coming here to say equal to sum of these and sum of that and sum of that, I could just say sum of product A, and then I'll just copy this product B and copy this product C. And Excel will sum all of them. So that's pretty much a sum of everything here, or the sum of everything here. And it just gives me, and all I just needed to do was to refer to these group of cells by the name that I have called them. As simple as that. Questions?
Yes, can you go over it again?
Sure.
The name range.
So you had told me that a range is a group of cells, right? Good. I'll just delete these ones. So the group of cells for product A are these ones. I can give them a name. First, I'll go back to my name manager and just delete the names. So I can highlight all of them and click delete. And it says, do you want to delete? I say, okay. So now I don't have any names for this table anymore. I can decide to say, let's make this one a name. I can come to the name manager. Sorry, somebody was in the waiting area. Okay. So that's how you delete the ranges. And now I want to make product A into a name, right? So that I can just refer to all product A as with their name, right? I wouldn't have to, know that product A was from B5 to B8 and so on, because it could also be a much longer list, right? Right. So if I just did that, I could select all of that. I could just go ahead and define a name for it and say product A, and I have this range, and I say, okay. And I can have product B. I can define a name for it. Excel already helps me to say, okay, you want to call this product B? I say, okay. And product C, define a name, okay. And how can I manage my names? I can go to my name manager and I'll see all the names here. I can either delete them or change them, as the case may be. And I can use them by saying, okay, I want to sum, for example, all the products in the month of April, of January to April. How can I do that? I can say equal to the sum, or I can just say equal to product A plus product plus product. I think this might give me an error. Yeah, it works. Actually, it's trying to do something else, but in fact, what I want is a sum. Product A, product, because I want to sum the values, right? C, like that. And then it gives me a sum of all of the products sold in the month of January, February, March, and April. Okay. And there is a lot more you can do with it. Just know that you can refer to these by their name, in fact. and it helps you. So if I, for example, inserted some new rows, and look, I'm inserting in between because I don't want to break the chain of my product name. No, I think, yeah, okay. Dynamic name ranges is something beyond the scope of this course, but you can actually make your name range dynamic so that when you increase your data, the names will be automatically increasing. But that's a little bit advanced. It's more advanced than this class. So I'll skip that for now. But for now, just know that you can name your ranges, and if they change, you can always come here. If I wanted it to be up to 15, for example, I could come here and change it to 15. Okay, press enter. Now it's up to 15. You can see the name has kind of increased. The scope has increased, and so on. Okay. One other thing we can do with formulas is, before we leave the formula section, is to audit the formulas. So if, for example, you had errors in your formulas, there are a few functionalities that Excel has provided for us that can help us to audit our formulas. I will use, again, this, I'll just use the sheet, okay? And let me just delete the names again. Just, yes. Okay, good. And I want to just do a sum of everything here, right? So B5 to D8, sum everything, and I have that. If I wanted to see all the, so there's some things here under the formula tab. All these functions here are used to pretty much audit your formula. So trace precedents essentially tells us which cells are using that particular formula. And you see Excel pretty much helps us to draw a box around all of the cells that are producing that amount, and it's pointing to it with this arrow, okay? So if I had a number here, 500, it will not be inside the box because they are not part of the formula. But if I had modified this to be from B, let's say B10, sorry, to D10, B5 to D10, like that. So I've kind of changed the range, the scope of this formula, and I wanted to see the precedence, then it kind of boxes those additional numbers for me. This is very good because it helps us to know which cells are used in a formula. If I go back to that homework we did, I hope I still have, yeah. And I did it for this one. No, that one doesn't have a formula. Yeah, this one does. Trace. So it's kind of pointing to these dates. It's telling me that this date is feeding into this formula right here. Okay. And if you can remove the arrows by clicking on the remove arrow button. I'll go back to that other sheet. Remove arrow, and it's gone. And I can trace dependence by, trace dependence actually works kind of like trace precedence, but it kind of tells you that the cells that this particular cell, the cells that are depending on the particular cell. So if you wanted to know if 1,600 was depending, if another cell was depending on the value on 1,600, then you could click that and it tells you, yeah, in this value, you have this cell, okay? And essentially that's how it works. And so on and so forth. So all of these are feeding into that formula right there, okay? It's just an error auditing tool, basically. I can remove it. And the other thing is, I've run into many cases where I did a formula and something is just not working right. Maybe it's a big formula with many nested functions, and I wanted to see my formula, for example. I want to see it. I don't want to just see the result, because 16,750 is the result of my formula. If I wanted to see the formula, and I could click the show formula button, and you see it's displaying the formula for me rather than the result, right? And it's telling me that, you see, I also have another formula here, the hyperlink formula, the one I'm using to go back to the main menu. And it's telling me that there's a formula here and there's a formula here. Okay. So it's just to show the formulas basically, because yeah, it looks nice like this, but if you wanted to see the formula, you could do that. The other thing that I'll just go over this evaluate formula, because this is a good one. And in fact, I will use, I deleted the thing we did with the first name and last name. But yeah, maybe we can use it. We can redo it. Let's say I wanted the first name. I remember what we did was to use left and find. So we said left, sorry, equal left of this text, right? And we said the number of characters will be the find of the location of the space, right? Within that text, and we wanted to start from 1. Did I miss a bracket? Oops, sorry. That. Close, enter. So John. Now, but if you wanted to see how this formula actually worked, maybe it's better with those longer ones that we did before, but you could use this evaluate formula to see. Now, I know this is a bit tiny, but if you see here, it says left, this is our formula, in fact, right? If I did evaluate, then you see that it's telling me that that thing that was, I'll close and come back again. It's telling me first, what is B2? And you can see B2 is John Smith. So if I click evaluate once, it tells me what B2 is. And now there is another B2 here, okay? And I can click evaluate and it tells me what that B2 is. So it's telling me you are doing a left function on John Smith and you are finding a space in John Smith, okay? If I click evaluate again, now it's telling me that that find function has given me 5 here. So it's telling me now you're doing a left function on John Smith and you want to display 5 characters of John Smith. If I click evaluate again, it tells me, yeah, what you need, your final result is John. So it's kind of a way to step through your function, especially for those nested functions that have many, many different, different functions nested within them. Evaluate formulas can help you to step through your functions step by step to see what's happening at every stage in your function. And especially if you have an error, then you may want to know why you are having an error by digging deep using the evaluate function. Let's say I put, instead of a space here, I put X here, but there's no X in this name. Now I have an error, okay? So it's saying I'm trying to do a left function on this name where I find X. It won't work for all of them, but it will work for Alex because Alex has an X, right? Yes, it's working for Alex, but it's not working for the others. Now, if you wanted to audit this formula to find out, okay, what went wrong, then you can start to do this formula, evaluate formula thing. And you can say, okay, let's evaluate this. Yes, it's John Smith. We evaluate. Yes, we are looking for X in John Smith. And of course, with experience, you can already see that there is no X in John Smith. So what do you think this whole function will give us an error. So now you can know where the error is coming from, and you can try to fix it. And of course, if there's an error here, then it means the whole left function will give us an error, and that's why you have an error at the end of the day. Okay, so to fix it, you can go back in your data, remove the X, replace it with space, and now you don't have any errors anymore. So the evaluate function is a really, really good one for error, for finding errors within your data, your formulas. Okay, we will stop there with error auditing. Any questions? No questions. Good. Can you just confirm you can still hear me? It's a little bit quiet today.
We can know.
All right. Good, good. All right. Now, it's almost time for us to close, but I would like to introduce, the next section. It's quite obvious that we can't finish this training in the 4 sections that I was thinking we could finish in 4 sections, but I had to explain some of the concepts a little bit in depth for you to understand better. So I'm thinking maybe we can also do another section next weekend so that we can finish this course. If you agree, just say yes in the chat. Yes, we can. Okay. All right. Okay. Very good. Okay.
Yes.
Lots of yeses. Very good. So I'll take it up to, maybe another, say, 10 minutes, and then we'll stop for today and we'll continue next week. Okay? All right. So data. I have one, and for those of you that want to know a little bit about data analysis, data manipulation, data cleaning, so pay close attention, because this will be a very, very good introduction for you into data analysis and data management generally. Okay. Yes, let's go back here. I have this one I created for you. The first thing here is filters. Okay. So you have a data set like this. You want to be able to filter your data. I'll delete this for now and just push it up a little bit. If you want to be able to filter this data, there's several things you can do to add a filter here. You can go to the Home tab and you can see this filter, sort and filter field. Click it and click on filter. And then you can see these little buttons beside each of the column headings. And you can see when you click, you can see a number of things. And at the bottom here, you can see the different unique values within this column. And you can select anyone to see, to filter by that one. So if I wanted to filter only by budget review task, I could do that. And then I have budget review in my display. And if I wanted to filter by another criteria, say, for example, I wanted to see all the budget review tasks with a low priority, then I could just pretty much do the same, click that, remove high, and then I have only one remaining item in my filter, okay? Another way to add a filter is from the data column, the data tab. And in that data tab under the sort and field command group, you can see filter here. So I can remove it by clicking on filter, or I can add it. So these sort and filter buttons or commands are the same one on the home screen here, sort and filter. Okay. I like to do it from here, but it pretty much does the same thing. So you can remove and add filters from here. You can filter your data from here. You can sort your data. So for example, you can see that looks like my data is sorted by the employee name. You can see it starting from A all the way to J, but I could also sort by department. I could do it in several ways. I could click on this filter button and sort here, A to Z, under department. And you can see my data has pretty much just rearranged itself to sort it by department. And I can sort by task, by priority. Maybe I want to always see the highest priority at the top. So I can do that, right? I can sort by due date. For this one, I can maybe say newest to oldest. So let's say let's keep the newest tasks at the top, right? So you see these ones are 1st of June 2025, and there's some that's from 18th of May 2025, okay? And then also you can set by numbers as well, although these ones are kind of like, yeah, I thought the comma was gonna, but it's, yeah. Okay. Good. So smallest to largest, largest to smallest, as the case may be. So that's how you add filters to your data, and that's how you can sort your data. Okay. I told you already how to apply and remove the filters. Now you can actually sort by multiple columns. You can see, for example, if I did the sort by name and I did the sort by department, it will just pretty much mess the sort by name that I did, mess it up, right? And if I sorted by another one, then it messes it up even much worse, right? The way to fix that is to use some kind of multiple filtration, multiple sorting using this sort button here. When you click on that, then it brings you all the sort that you have applied, the sort that you have applied on your data. So you can see here that I have sort on tasks here. Let's say I remove it and I say, no, I want the first level of my sorting to be on the employee name. And I want it to sort on, of course, the cell values, but I could also sort on other things. I could sort on colors, if I had backgrounds, for example, or I could also use conditional formatting icons to sort, okay? I'll show you sort on colors a bit in just a few seconds. And then the order, if you want to sort A to Z, then you can select the order like this. So yes, that's my first level, but then I want to also sort by department next. So I can add, so you can see here it tells me first sort by employee, then by department here, okay? So first sort employee, then by department, and we can sort by A to Z. You can also change the order to say this one, the department should sort Z to A, as the case may be, but let's leave the A to Z. And then I click OK. So if you look, you will see that yes, the name sort is not messed up anymore as it did before, but then under each name, the department is also sorted. So let's look only at Alice. You see that Alice is sorted A to Z. So of course, F is before H and before I, right? So that's how you can sort your data. And you can see if you took this one that had more, then you can see it's going from A to Z as well after based on only one name, one employee name. Okay, so that's how you do multiple sorting. And then the other thing is you can see, I don't know if you can see, there's kind of a small arrow just beside the button here. Oops. There's a small arrow just beside the button here. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. So, but I don't know if you can see that tiny arrow there, but yeah, it kind of tells you that there is a sort applied on an employee and there's another sort applied on department. And you can also just put the sort on others as well, right? Let's say this time I want to sort on And of course, you can also move the sort. If I wanted this one to be the first, for example, I could move it like that and move these down. Let's say I want to sort by task, and this time I want to sort by, in reverse. I could do that, okay? And you see, if you notice just now, this one kind of just switched places. Let me reverse it. Now you see that these ones are fixed, but then I want to add a sort here. And yeah, obviously S is after M in the alphabet. So if I added that sort, I expect the staff training to move to the bottom because M is before S in ABC, right? I'll do that. I'll move it to the bottom. I'll add task again, and I'll reverse it. And I don't know, let's leave A to Z and say okay. And it's not doing what I wanted it to do. Just stuff. Yeah, because it's IT here. So an I obviously is after H. But if I change this, for example, to HR, okay, and I did that again, you will observe this will move. Of course. And yes, okay. And now I don't know if you saw that movement, but now it's M before S, okay? So that's how you use multiple sort on your data. Yes, custom sort, sorting ascending or descending, we talked about it. And the one that we will finish with, this will be the last thing we do today, and it's really interesting, is there could be times when, here you have, let's say we have done multiple filtration. I'll just remove all the sorts for now. Let's say you wanted to do multiple filters. Say I wanted to filter only Alice, and I wanted to filter I want to remove only that one, or let's see only install software, right? Now, obviously you can see the data, but if we had, say, 2 lines of this particular data, I added a new line with Control+, and I copied the line above it by highlighting both and pressing Control D on my keyboard, and then I can just duplicate the first line. So let's say again we want to filter by Alice, and we want to filter by department finance, for example. Now we have these 2 records. But the thing is, yes, it's a small data set, so you can actually see that it's Alice and finance. But if it was a really big data set, then it would be a little bit difficult for you to know where your filters are. What am I filtering on? Am I filtering on employee, or is it which employee am I filtering on? You want to be able to see your filters. That's what advanced filtering is for. And you can do advanced filtering using this advanced command here. And again, it kind of works like the normal filter. It says, okay, which range do you want to filter on? And you can see Excel has helped me to select the range, this range. And it's going to now ask me for a criteria range, which we have not created. So let's do that first. Let's say that the first criteria I want to filter by is employee. So I say, okay, I put a criteria there, employee, and then I can say which employee I want to filter by. Say this time, let's try Bob, like that. Now I go to advanced filters, and then I can say, I want to filter my range. You can see it's highlighting my range already. And I want my criteria range, I'll delete that, to be G2 to B2. So I'm highlighting only the range that for which the filter will be applied. So what I'm doing is I'm saying, apply a filter on employee where the employee name is Bob. And if I click OK, then you see it has done the same thing, but it's quite interesting that there is no filter buttons here. no filter buttons in the column names. But then again, but my data is filtered anyway, right? And more interestingly is I can see which filter I have applied on my data up there. So if I wanted to, and of course you can also just still clear the filter like this. If you want to apply it again, just go back there, make sure that everything is set correctly, and click OK, and it filters again. If you want to do multiple filters, as we did before with the normal traditional filters, you will have to add more criteria up here. So let's say this time around, I want to filter by priority. So I'll put priority here and say I want to filter by high, for example. And I can come here and put high there, okay? So this now is my criteria range, and this is my data. And then I can go there and click on advanced filter, for which Excel has selected the filter range for me. And then the criteria range, I have to expand it now because now I want to filter as well by priority. So I can delete that and select, expand the range and click OK. And now you can see that it has filtered for me high priorities with Bob. And why I like this filter is you can see what you're filtering by up here, which is really good. Okay. Yes, questions?
Yes, for this advanced filter, I can actually make multiple selections. For example, I want to see on employee, I want to see Bob and Alex with the priority.
Yes.
I can actually just put maybe the Alex on cell G3, right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense.
So you can, but then again, you have to remember to expand your range. So when you do it like this, so it's actually going to take these two and use them as your criteria, and of course add when you are adding more rows, you are doing OR, kind of an OR operator. So you are saying filter for me all employees where the name is Bob or Alice. But then when you add a column, remember we did the logic last week. When you add a column, you're adding an AND operator to your filter. You're saying, give me Bob or Alice, and that the priority must be high, okay? But then again, if I want to apply that filter, then I have to do that, and I have to change you can see Alice is not there, and I have to update my criteria range to make sure that I include Alice, and okay, and now I have Bob and Alice in my filter, okay? Of course, because I have, well, I think I also have to add that like that, because it's saying when it's blank, it's just, allowing me to bring another item. But I think if I do that, then Alice, because Alice only has medium priority. So let's just see what will happen. Yeah, Alice disappears because Alice has only medium priority. But if you don't put anything there, then it's giving you the the one that exists for Alice. So in this case, if I said if I maybe just modified my data a little bit and add some high priority for Alice, then if I did high here and did that, then you can see Alice as well, even with the high filter.
But is it possible to see high and medium priority on one filter?
Yes. Just put it there. Like I said, this is OR, right? High or medium. And then just click OK again. And you can see high, medium here. And Alice Bob here as well. But then again, you are seeing only Bob where it's high priority and Alice when it's medium priority. But if you wanted to see all of the priorities of Bob, then no need to put that. No need to put the priority, in fact, for both. And you will see everything that they have to work on, both high, medium, and low priorities, right? So this is only just helping you to put an AND operator to say it must be Bob and the priority must be low. then it gives you, yeah, so it's a smaller list now because we only have one case where Bob has a low priority because Alice doesn't have a low priority. That's why there's nothing in the filter. Okay, so like I said, I really like this one because you can see up here what your filters are. That's before when we, you know, kind of had this filter, and this same filter, I could have done it if I had just selected Bob here and Alice here. So you can select multiple values here. And then on the priority, I select low. You get the same result, but you don't see which filters you have applied, which is why I like the advanced filters, because you can see here what you have done and what you're applying on your filters. So you get the same result, essentially. Questions? This will be the last thing we talk about today, and we'll continue tomorrow with other data tools. No questions? You are going to get a homework, so ask your questions.
Please, will the class be sent today, the recorded video?
I will send it after the class today, yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So I'll send you also a small homework so you can have something to work on today. For those of you that didn't finish the previous homework, you can watch the video of today. I will send it shortly, and try to do that homework of yesterday. And also I will give you a homework for today, for tomorrow, for those of you that did the one of yesterday already. And just get to work. And of course, if you have issues, you can contact each other, those of you that already are catching up, or just watch the videos again, and I'm pretty sure you'll understand. And of course, you have you know, the internet, ChatGPT, go and use all the tools just to understand what all these things, how to work with all of these Excel functionalities. All right, so thank you very much for today. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good evening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Graceful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
You too.
Yeah, you
Bye-bye.
too. Bye.